Well, welcome to this Channel 4 News Facebook Live with the philosopher Slavoj Žižek. Slavoj, welcome to the studio.
It's an honor for me, thank you.
That's fantastic. Now, look, I want to ask you about your new book and a particular metaphor in that book where you talk about the light at the end of the tunnel is actually an oncoming train. Just disentangle what you're saying there.
It's basically very simple. Everybody agrees that we, humanity, in our global world are approaching serious problems. Ecology, refugees, geopolitical conflicts, up to extremely serious concrete problems like how to control biogenetics and so on. But even the most radical analysis like to end with an upbeat message, like, but it's not so bad, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm more of a pessimist here. I think that what we imagine as this light at the end of the tunnel is usually just the same, even worse. Because either people want a conservative withdrawal, like we are too much into this acceleration of modernity, return to traditional life. Well, we had it, Le Pen, neo-fascists, and so on. Or it's still trust into the market, market can regulate, or it's still some socialist planning, or the most utopian, I think.
Some sort of status quo.
Some sort of status quo. You know why this is the most dangerous? Because I think, and that's my despair even, we see that we will have to do something. The greatest utopia today is the idea that let's not succumb to utopian dreams. Let's just stick to what it is, a little bit more austerity, let's control, and somehow we will manage it.
And you're saying instead, embrace the hopelessness.
Yeah, but of course, here I'm a Hegelian, you know. Because embracing hopelessness means, for me, you accept that there are no easy solutions, just fixing the system. For example, one guy towards whom I have great sympathy, Thomas Piketty. His idea is capitalism is still the only game in town. Just with the proper taxation, higher taxes, and so on, we can manage it. I don't think this works. This is one of the lights at the end of the tunnel, which is the train approaching us.
So what to do instead in the face of this approaching train? In your view, what do you do?
Precisely, first, accept the hopelessness. By this, I mean that it's not just a question of slight changes here and there. Look, the predominant view...
To raise the whole system, basically, to the ground.
No, I'm not a Leninist, don't be afraid here, not. But I'm also not what most of the leftists are today. I call them, ironically, left Fukuyamaists. They basically accept our global system, liberal democratic capitalism, just with a little bit pushing it to the left, you know, more healthcare, more tolerance, and so on and so on. It doesn't work. Listen, I'm not alone here. Even Elon Musk recently wrote that capitalism is approaching its end. One can see at the level of intellectual property, financial capital, ecology, and so on and so on.
But you still haven't told me, apart from embracing the hopelessness, you haven't told me what you do next. What comes next?
Oh, I will be here absolutely open. Our tragedy is that we know absolutely that something, maybe it will be just a more enlightened, socialized capitalism, I don't know what, but some things will have to change fundamentally. Let's be frank.
So you're saying a solution will emerge? I mean, isn't that a bit of a cop-out, though? I mean, you know,
but I
you embrace the cop-out.
Yes, yes, because I think that we do not yet have the formula of what to do. So all we can do now is getting ready for a global crisis and, of course, engage in as many as possible concrete fights. For example, the example that I always use, President Obama, he did many stupid things, but Obamacare was a great thing. Mm-hmm. He pushed the American system to the limit. What I am allergic to, I hope we agree here, is this typical leftist laziness of proposing easy formulas, like refugees, great solution. This will be the new working class. Refugees is, for me, in my view, for some leftists, almost a kind of outsourced revolutionary subject. We have refugees, they're the new proletariat. No, they are not.
Well, we've got some questions coming in on Facebook, which is great, which I'm going to put to you in a minute, on EU politics.
Yeah.
But just ending this sort of first section of our chat, when you talk about embracing the hopelessness, do you mean, as some have suggested, that you're urging revolt, that you're actually advocating violence?
No, wait a minute. I know these statements brought me into a lot of trouble.
A lot of your statements have brought you into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, but I'll
come on to LGBT later.
I'm resigned to it, but just read carefully what I said. For example, when and this was the most problematic statement, when I said the problem with Hitler was that he wasn't violent enough. You can imagine people.
That's pretty problematic.
Yeah, but you know what is then second part of the same statement? In the sense in which Gandhi was more violent than Hitler. It's clear that I'm not talking about killing, physical violence. I'm talking about radical change in social system. And my point is that...
Why didn't you say that then? I mean, is there a problem with the words you're using?
Because in this way, I would have watered down the point that change, social systemic change, in some sense is violent. Today, we not only get physical violence. Isn't it, for example, a bankruptcy of a big company where millions even lose job and so on? They can experience this as an extremely violent thing. Why was, for me, Gandhi more violent than Hitler? Because Hitler killed millions to prevent real social change, to save the system. While all the point of Gandhi's non-violent protest and so on was precisely to do a pretty radical change in India.
But why not just say that Gandhi was more radical? I mean, aren't you being deliberately provocative in your use of words here?
You know why? Because, again, the dream of too many people today is, we'll somehow get a change, but a change which will not hurt. It will hurt.
But how can you relish that, then?
Sorry?
How can you relish that? That change will hurt?
I will tell you how.
I mean, that's why people, have a go at Stalin, obviously.
Because, and I developed this widely in my book on violence, because you know what we tend to forget in our everyday view, me inclusive, I'm not patronizing others. We only see the violence of change. But my first reply to you would be, are we aware how much violence goes on just to keep things going on the way they are? So for me, it's comparative. It's not now we don't have violence and then, oh my God, this will be horrible and so on. Are we aware how much? What goes on in China, in Africa and so on? It's a crazy world today, and it's ignored. Like, even Palestinians are at a privilege here. Did you know how, and it's good that this happens, one child gets killed by IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, it's front page news. Okay, a small note, but it is. Things much worse happening regularly in Democratic Republic of Congo, we ignore it, and so on and so on. My main point with my provocation of violence is to become aware of of how much violence effectively is going on. But you know what's my final answer to you? At the end of my violence book, I end with that sometimes the greatest violence is not to do anything, to refuse to participate. And then I refer to that wonderful novel by José Saramago about a country where people simply refuse to vote, and all the regime is in panic, and so on and so on. So no, I don't have any fascination with violence. I just want to develop where is violence today? To stop this fascination of violence is only if somebody is beaten on the street and so on and so on.
OK, let me ask you, we've got loads of questions coming in, which is great. One relates to the EU and EU politics from Sam Allen. Does Slavoj think that the EU is dead at this point? Is there a chance for it? Does he support Brexit?
I don't support Brexit because I think that it's a much deeper background that I will have to refer to. You know, among the right-wingers and even some left-wingers, the idea is this one. EU is just an organ of international capital, banks, so the only way to save whatever of the welfare state, to help workers, actual working people, is stronger state sovereignty, stronger nation state. I claim this is totally wrong. The system we are confronting today is a global system. And we should not play this game local resistance against it. We need a new, much more aggressive universalism. So I think I'm aware of all the compromises and horrible, stupid things that EU is doing. But the basic idea of EU, which is a group of states gets together and establish some kind of even executive power, making decisions at the higher than national level. This is what we need today. The example that I always give...
Why couldn't you bring yourself to back Emmanuel Macron then? I mean, he came from outside the system. I mean, wasn't there a part of you...
No, because he stands for precisely the failures of EU. He stands for that aspect of EU because of which right-wing, anti-immigrant nationalists hate Europe. He is, for me, in the deeper sense, the cause of Le Pen. Let me make this clear. Sorry, I cannot resist telling it. Totally non-vulgar, one wonderful old joke from Soviet Union. You know, they had Radio Erevan, this mythic station which always answers a listener's question with, in principle, yes, but. The big joke is it true that the Jew Rabinovich won a new car at a state lottery? Radio Erevan answers, in principle it's true, only it wasn't a new car but an old bicycle, and he didn't win it, but it was stolen from him. So it's the same. Is it true that Macron saved us, a modest outsider, from fascist threat? Well, A, he's not an outsider, but establishment at its purest, and B, yes, he saved us, but he saved us from something that his politics caused. Which is why I think that, of course, I was glad Marine Le Pen lost. But I agree with a French, even enemy of mine, who put it correctly. He said a vote for Macron today is a vote for Le Pen 4 years from now.
Well, of course, I mean, you know, you backed Donald Trump in the US election.
No,
and that...
I did it in a very cynical way, I hope.
But it was still a cynical backing.
Yeah, but I
thought for a minute you might cynically back Marine Le Pen.
No. Because, and I think I was deeply right, some of my idiotic United States friends claimed Trump is pure fascism. It's not. He's an opportunist and so on. But he's
So the wall was just to keep Muslims out was just opportunism, was it?
First, let's wait and see what will happen with this wall and so on. He's obviously improvising. You know what I'm not saying even... No, what I hoped, and obviously I was too much of an optimist, it's precisely that people will see in Trump, and I put this explicitly, what horror he is, and that this will revitalize the left. The greatest disappointment in the first 100 days of Trump, others also said this, like Cornel West, is the Democratic Party. Now, Democratic Party is spending most of its energy not fighting Trump, but getting rid of Bernie Sanders supporters of its own. You know, okay, let me give you another prediction. You know what will be the result of Trump? You know that his America First policy is really a very modest policy. We no longer can be the global power, let's take care of our interests. No wonder this is a beautiful perversity, that some very suspicious anti-colonizers, like Robert Mugabe, he supported Trump, because he said, yes, America first for them, Zimbabwe first for us, and so on. It's very important what the Chinese president Xi said a couple of days ago, you may remember it. He said that China should now become the main agent of globalization, a new world order, open market, and so on and so on. That will be the true catastrophe of Trump. And
but having cynically supported him, as having cynically supported him,
because
having done that, how do you think he's shaping up? I mean, in terms of draining the swamp, you know, he's appointed lots of his family.
No, that's ridiculous. He's extremely dangerous. But my hope...
So you regret your support?
No. Because I thought that this danger will mobilize the people, the left.
How's that going? No, not good.
Don't go too fast. We still have time. We still have time. I think that there still is a hope that not only Trump is doing his own stupidities, but with Democratic Party, it's more and more perceptible that it doesn't really offer an alternative. Because, you know, my point was this one. It's so easy with Hillary Clinton, with Macron. It's so easy, this idea, now this is the real danger, just get rid of it. Yeah, but then if we get rid of it the way in France we get rid of Le Pen, we are just reproducing the system which gave birth to these problems. This is not enough. We need a shake-up which will bring out a stronger alternative. And don't be afraid. I'm not talking about some new Leninist party or whatever. But simply, seriously confronting the problems. Again, even people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates are aware of this. With biogenetics, with intellectual property, with ecology. Capitalism, the way we know it now, cannot work.
I do wonder, though, when you backed Trump and you thought that he'd sort of end up being
but I explicitly made it only because I hope he will be chaos. Scandal, chaos, and so on.
But I mean, you quote George Orwell, and I'm going to quote him here from you. Every revolutionary opinion draws part of its strength from a secret conviction that nothing can be changed. Do you, in your heart of hearts, have that secret conviction too?
No, because first, I think that Orwell, I know it's a wonderful passage, I often quote it. Orwell there was thinking about specific liberal, progressive intelligentsia and so on. Like, let me take a mega example. When Lenin was doing and writing what he was writing, no, with him it was not, let's just keep things the way they are. But I think Orwell, maybe even better than the left of his time, fits today's liberal left. They really don't want any risky change. That's why they enjoy these marginal struggles. Segregated toilets, yes, wonderful. It's even better if you get support from all the big names like Tim Cook of Apple and so on, Microsoft, everything. I think that the tragedy of today's left is that, is Hillary Clinton's politics. Nothing against.
Oh, well, that brings it... Sorry, I interrupted
No, that's the idea that you try to recuperate all these partial identity political progressive causes just to get rid of the real one of the economico-political change. And that's how Trump gets elected.
OK, well, let's talk about the British election. We've got a lot of questions coming in on Jeremy Corbyn's manifesto. Connor Gibson, what do you think of Corbyn's new manifesto? Have you read it? There's a lot of spending there, renationalising utilities and things like that.
I am not qualified to give a definitive statement. I just think that, A, my proposal to British people, if anyone cares to listen to me, is abstain. Or, of course, vote Corbyn. But
hang on, of course, vote Corbyn.
No, I mean, if you feel the need to vote Corbyn, but basically this will be another pseudo-election.
You mean because he's got no hope of winning in your
No
view?
hope of winning, Theresa May. It's not a real election. It's just part of some political manipulation to strengthen Theresa May's position, and she even is not a true Brexiter, as we know.
Yeah, but isn't Jeremy Corbyn just the kind of candidate you like? I mean, he's accused by the Conservatives of bringing in chaos. You know, he's got these...
No.
I mean, he's one of your fellow travellers, isn't he?
No, I want right-wing chaotic people.
I think there's more chance of them getting in?
What the left needs today is not chaos in the sense of local, direct, non-representative politics, communal space. No, I think the left should discover big, strong state. I'm a Hegelian.
Well, that's what Jeremy Corbyn's talking about in his manifesto, with all this renationalisation.
Yeah, but nonetheless, you know, the problem is that we live in a global system. And this is the problem of Corbyn. This is a problem of Die Linke, the leftists in Germany, and so on. They never made it clear how then they will prevent their politics to trigger catastrophic consequences. Not that they are guilty of them, but we know how capitalism functions. You are immediately punished. Look what happened in Greece and so on. So I still think that the left, if we should even still call it the left, doesn't have an answer. Tell me, do we have a vision of what we are striving for? If you ask people who protest, all they would have said is some kind of a Keynesianism, yes, more healthcare, we nationalize a little bit, but we still need what my friend Frederick Jameson calls cognitive mapping, a general view of the situation where we don't have it.
Why do you embrace the right-wing chaos and not left-wing chaos?
Because here I'm dirty and manipulative. Because I want the right-wing chaos so that the new left will save us from it. I like organization. You know, did you notice in my new book, Courage of Hopelessness, that one subchapter is entitled A Plea for Bureaucratic Socialism? I mean it seriously. We need strong... Can you even imagine confronting refugee problem, ecology and so on, without stronger, in a good sense, efficient bureaucracy?
Well, I mean, you're talking about you want the right-wing chaos and then the left-wing to get their act together and then pick up the pieces.
Yeah, the left should be the party of order.
Is that possible?
It is maybe in the United States. Look, whatever Trump is, I hope we agree, he definitely is not a man of order. He is a man of chaos.
So if Jeremy Corbyn were a right-winger, you'd be happy to back him?
No, it's a totally different situation. Corbyn's tragedy is deeper, I think.
His tragedy, did you say?
Yes, the tragedy is that I know a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, about the splits within the Labour Party and so on and so on. So I don't think, even if, in the utopian sense, he were to win the elections, I think it would immediately split the party. He wouldn't be able to pursue a consistent, clear vision.
Got another question.
We need more of a chaos. We need more of a danger.
Got another question here from Beraz Semidov, who says, which kind of economy is the best, in your opinion? Big question.
Probably he means this standard choices, state socialism, capitalism, or whatever, no? Well...
I mean, I would assume so, yeah.
Yes. I think I'm not thinking in these terms of ideals. I'm thinking of what is the ultimate cause of the troubles we are in. I think it is the global capitalist dynamics. And I'm here a good Marxist, but this, I mean, I have at the same time a deep admiration for capitalism. Let's face it, capitalism is a wonder. In entire human history, we didn't see such an efficient system which brought to many people such welfare and so on. But you know what, for me, an anonymous side.
That brings me back to Orwell, though, that actually you're secretly, in your heart of hearts, you can't quite contemplate, you can't quite believe that capitalism is going to collapse.
No, I can, because I see signs of a crisis, and very sad crisis. For example, did you notice how the most successful dynamic capitalist countries today turn out to be countries with authoritarian power structure? That, in the case of China, is even communists. Once, when we met briefly, I told Fukuyama himself that maybe you were right, capitalism won. But admitted that today, ex-communists, where they're in power, are the best managers of capitalism today. So what I'm saying is that it's the general tendency in today's global capitalism to gradually get rid of democracy. To be really efficient, you have to have some kind of authoritarian system. At the same time, something else is happening, that global market capitalism gets along better and better, no longer with this liberal ideology, pro-Western human rights, but with strong ethnocentric nationalism and so on. India, for me, typical politician today in good and bad, more in bad, is Modi, the Prime Minister of India. Radical neoliberal in economic politics, but a fundamentalist Hindu, or Erdogan is doing the same. Putin, not so good in economy, but tries to do the same. China is doing this, and so on. So we are approaching a situation where there will be global market, but culturally, ideologically, there will no longer be universalism, but each large geopolitical group of states will have their own narrow nationalism. We will have Muslim world, Chinese world, Indian world, and this will be a very sad situation where market, not restrained by any shared ideological values, will be what will rule the world.
You've mentioned several times what you've said on LGBT issues, which has got you into trouble, you admit that. In your book, your new book, you don't really resile from anything you've said in the past on it. You're sort of digging in, aren't you, on that? Why?
No. On the one hand, I, of course, radically support not only their concrete demands, although I don't buy into these crazy classifications, 32 sexual identities, and so on. So I support their demands, even many of the theoretical and existential foundations of their demands, like I don't feel that I have a fixed sexual identity and so on. I agree.
Yeah, you said in the book, when you see the sign ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, usually I have problems. You mean I'm really a man and so on. But I think...
No, but that's a sort of more, that is an existential thing, isn't it? Rather
yes,
than
it is. Because...
I was interested why that was.
Because
what's going on in your mind
we cannot
there?
go here into Lacanian philosophy, but I think Lacan's point is that every social identification that we get, and sexual identification is one of them entrance, always comes with a doubt. We never fully are what we claim to be. That's why, I'm so sorry, we don't have time to go into this. That's my feminism. That's why women as hysterical are the mouth of truth. Because you know what's for Lacan, a woman's hysterical question? You say what I am. I am your mother, a whore, a lady, a woman. But why are you saying that I'm, this doubt about, am I really what you, the big other social system, is saying that I am? You women are much more interesting because this doubt about who I am is subjectivity at its purest. We men are more stupid. We usually believe what we are.
So it's nothing to do with the fact that you tell lots of dirty jokes and therefore you can't be a gentleman then?
No, everybody knows, especially you British, that. And here, that's why I like to tell, not here, in public, dirty jokes. That,
yeah. That was really an invitation.
No. I mean, no. That, the way the system functions is that public decency goes together with privately telling dirty jokes. And the problem with Trump is that he is destroying even this limit. And
no limits.
So that's why, wouldn't you agree with this? Sorry, very briefly. When I was young, the idea was the representative of establishment speaks a pseudo-dignified language, so we, the leftists, should use the F word and so on, dirty. Now it's the opposite. It's neoconservatives in power who are more and more obscene. And we, the left, should present ourselves as voice of common dignity, moral majority, and so on. I'm all for that.
Well, just coming back to the LGBT comments, I mean, in the past, you've written that anti-discriminatory campaigns would lead to a call for marriages to animals. I mean, was that a joke?
No. You see how we are approaching that. I said marriages, I didn't say sex.
Yeah.
And I think this is already happening. I spoke with American lawyers. Some rich people who die, they want to establish not a marriage, but a special relationship with their cat, dog, so that after they die, to leave to them, and when you attack them, they say, no.
Yeah, but you were making the deeply offensive comment that, the more calls for different sorts of marriage, civil partnerships, whatever, where does it end? Do people want to marry their animals? I mean, I assumed it was a sort of bad taste joke.
No, I mean it serious. I give you a prediction. I hope we will be alive, at least me with my heart problems, 10 years from now. But you know what is already happening? I wonder how romantic are you, or our listeners, if they will accept this. You know, what I also, in the same paragraph, predicted, polyamory is now called. Why, in your erotic life, be linked to one person, why not more partners? Okay, why not? But I'm a metaphysician here. I claim that true radical love is only for one person, and for very theoretical reasons. If you may have polyamory, you satisfy this need of mine, you that. But this is pragmatic reasoning. But isn't true love, if it exists, and sometimes it does, more radical? Sorry for the obscenity, I don't mean it literally. Let's say I were to have this type of love for you. It wouldn't be right to say, because you satisfy my needs. It's simply an urgent impossibility. I cannot be without you. That's true love. I simply cannot be. And for that you have to have singularity. So I think it's totally wrong perspective.
I was with you up to that last point where you dragged me into the situation, but yeah.
You see, I did get my moment of obscenity.
You did, yeah. But it was subtle, though. But we've drifted off the point of LGBT. I mean, do you understand why what you said about LGBT campaigners and your seeming sort of impatience with some of their demands, why that offended people?
I see, but I still think I was right. Because I think that, look, this is for me the best metaphor of what happened in the United States and Canada. 2 months before last presidential elections, the big debate, it was the cover story of New York Times and so on, should we desegregate the toilets and so on. And this, what worries me here is that this LGBT campaign was totally out of touch with the worries, anxieties of so-called ordinary people. It had a certain normativity in it. They pretend, oh, we just want equality for us. No. If you talk to them, their much more subtle reasoning is, you who are caught in normal heterosexuality, you are a blind part of the ruling patriarchal ideology, while our position is somehow privileged, more radical, and so on and so on. So I think all this exaggerated passion for LGBT rights, for political correctness, I see in it a kind of exaggerated, wrong, bureaucratic passion. Like 30, now, you know, the state...
Well, but surely if you are a trans woman, you want to use the female toilet.
Or why do you even say women? The trans are really trans, some of them. They don't want to be neither women...
But if you identify as a woman,
yes,
you want to use the female toilets. I mean, it's quite simple, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm totally open here to claim that there are some people who don't want to do this. Okay, you have a third type of toilets. I don't have any problem with this.
But that's compartmentalizing people.
No, because you know why not? Because the third toilet would be a kind of an empty toilet. All others.
Anybody can go there.
Anybody can go there.
Yeah, but they might want to use the female toilet. I mean, that's what the whole toilet issue is about. They don't want to be forced to, as they see it,
no, that would be, unfortunately, what you are saying now, I don't think it's really true. If this were to be the case, I would agree with it. But
that's like
many of them want a category of their own. This is what bothers me with LGBT. They are searching for their own identity. Am I butch? Am I this? Am I bigender, trigender, transgender, whatever? I don't trust this passion for categorization. It's another effect of the same mechanism that we find in political correctness, to categorize.
But your empty toilet is categorizing them in a way that they don't want. They want to go into the female toilet. If they're, if they identify as a woman, that's the toilet they want to use. And you would stop them doing that.
You mean if they identify as women?
Yes.
Yeah, they can do it.
But you want this empty toilet?
No, not for all. I want 3 toilets, which is the easiest solution. Masculine, feminine, out of simple respect for, I don't know, 98% of the people. Because remember, gay people are not transgender. They clearly identify. If I'm gay, I am a man who wants to do it with men.
Yeah, so, I understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are bits of your book, I have to say, that I found hard to grasp, but that is clear.
Yes, so again, my shock was, why was there such a big hell? Maybe my style, irony, or whatever, when I was basically supporting them, my God.
So you were misunderstood, not transphobic.
Okay, I admit partial guilt because I like to provoke.
Well, I think that's the whole issue with Hitler as well. You used
No, Hitler didn't like to just provoke.
No, I'm saying you invoked Hitler because you wanted to provoke, which is dangerous.
But I will tell you now something else to conclude in a more serious, pessimist tone. Are you aware, I don't know what the situation is here in the UK, but in continental Europe, in my country, and in all that, here I would really have to use a dirty word, but I will not. 3, 4 points, part of Europe, which extends Slovenia, Croatia, and up. Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, a little bit less Baltic countries. It's kind of a neo-fascist racism and rehabilitation of fascism. I wonder if it's reported here. We have now, in my country and some others, theories which claim that George Soros is the most dangerous man in the world. Why? Because he's a Jew who is secretly organizing Muslim invasion of Europe. So I will not go further into this madness. The idea is there is no Israeli-Arab conflict. It's just staged for us to obfuscate the true fact. Jews and Arabs together want to undermine Christianity in Europe. Okay, I will not go into this madness. What shocks me is this. We all the time had these lunatic marginal theories. But they were something that you talk in a pub after a talk show privately if you are crazy. Now this is becoming part of a public discourse. And all this revisionism, for example, you know what's now in Slovene media, one of the predominant theories about World War II, that Jews provoked Holocaust because their aim was destroy Europe. They knew that Germany is the backbone of Europe. So
But this is the kind of preponderance of fake news that your friend Donald Trump has helped to put the bellows under.
But that's why I'm horrified about it, my God.
Oh, yes, of course.
Fake news. No, they were all the time here. Don't forget this. But these were just those lunatic, marginal books and so on. News. The tragedy is now that under the preponderance, what do they say? And now comes another crucial irony. When you say fake news, you know that crazy woman, Kellyanne?
Conway.
She said like alternate...
I didn't say she was crazy, by the way.
Yeah, I said.
Editorial impartiality.
She said alternate reality or alternate data or whatever.
Alternative facts.
Yeah. You know what's so horrible here? And him, I totally classical, modern metaphysician, science is science. How? What is returning now in this new racist right are the worst cliches of so-called postmodernism. There is no objective reality. There are just different stories circulating. There is no objective truth. So why should also those who oppose us not have the right to say this and so on and so on? Here, let me conclude with another way. I hope you agree with me. I'm not only for truth as truth, objective. There are facts, even ideological values where you don't debate. I'm even for a progressive
Although your facts might be different from my facts, but anyway, yeah.
Okay, but we can debate it, I hope, rationally. But wouldn't you agree that a certain amount of dogmatism is not only not bad, but it's a sign of progress? What do I mean by this? Would you like to live in a country where you have to argue against rape? No, I would like to live in a country where the fact that you don't rape is simply, in a good sense, dogmatic. It's a fact. So if anyone argues, in that stupid way, what if women really enjoy it or whatever, you don't even fight him, you just laugh at him.
So there are certain facts that are absolutely
ideological facts. And this is even progress. It's a great sign of progress that, at least superficially in our countries, you don't debate it. It's great regression, like torture was the same. Till 10 years ago, okay, government were doing it, but it was not a matter of public discourse. Now we again debate, should be torture or not. This is ethical catastrophe.
Let me ask you one last question from Facebook now.
How I will kill myself now, after saying
No, I'd
this.
rather not know that right now. John McDermott says, please ask him, where he thinks the EU will be in 5 years' time.
I don't have a simple question. I think that either if the present establishment, Macron, Merkel, will remain, it will just slowly, without great catastrophes, continue its sliding into insignificance. It will be something that is already now London, Venice, if you go, I was there a week ago, what ancient Greece was for ancient Rome. You go there for culture, tourism, and so on and so on.
So
this is probably what will happen. It will still exist, but less and less significant. Not a serious geopolitical factor, but I still have this crazy idea, and miracles happen here and there, that maybe out of this despair again, some new social project which emerge, miracle happens, Who would have accepted Arab Spring? Who would have accepted Syriza and so on? As a leftist, as an atheist leftist, I believe in miracles.
So where will Britain be in 5 years' time?
If anything good will remain in Britain, it will not be because of Brexit, I claim. I think that Brexit will not bring new prosperity. That's the final paradox. getting out of European Union will just expose you more openly to the global market. You know, all those people who claim Europe is controlling us, they should just do something. They should look at the list of the conflicts in the last 20 years between Brussels bureaucracy and Great Britain. I'm mostly on the side of Brussels bureaucracy. Like Brussels bureaucracy want to impose certain ecological standards.
So, sorry, you are on the side of the Brussels bureaucracy?
Here, with this, not in their financial politics, but it's typical. The Blair government said, no, this limits our competitivity. Brussels bureaucracy wanted to impose minimal day of holidays per year or maximum work hours per week. Again, British government said, no, this will limit our competitivity, whatever. You know, not all regulations of European Union are just this type of horror, that whatever. It's easy to make fun of regulations.
I feel
but
George Orwell coming on again. But at that point, I think we should bring this to a close. Slavoj Žižek, thank you very much for joining us. And thank you on Facebook for all of your questions.
And I thank you and for your courage to confront a hopeless strange man like me.
Not at all. It's been fascinating talking to you. Thank you very much.